Good morning, Stig.
What do you think happened with Linehan? Why did this happen? Why on a flight back from the US? Why five cops? Do we know anything about that?
No, I think at this point we can only speculate. But I know that Graham himself thinks it's because a trans rights activist, a trans woman whom he got into a spat with and is an ex-police officer, complained, and the police were acting on that complaint. I don't think it's likely that it was signed off, by Sir Mark Rowley, but someone in a reasonably senior position must have signed it off, which is pretty baffling. So Graham was met off the plane by five armed police officers and then held in a cell at Heathrow for 16 hours and only released, as I understand it, when his blood pressure became so elevated he needed to go immediately to A&E, and that was at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it is baffling as to why so many resources, so much police time was taken up with investigating three tweets. But then it isn't the first time the police have been known to overzealously police people's social media posts, particularly when it comes to gender critical content. We've seen it again and again.
What about this bail condition that he couldn't go on and tweet about it or go on X and whatever you do, X about it? Have you heard of that before, where that is sort of a condition that you're not allowed to talk about it in public?
Yes, that is becoming increasingly common. So we had another case, a guy called Robert Moss, that was reported in some of the papers last week. He used to work for Staffordshire Fire and Rescue, and he was critical of his of the management in a private Facebook post, and they complained. The police arrested him and only released him on bail on the condition that he didn't say anything on any social media channels about the management of Staffordshire Fire and Rescue while he remained under investigation. And we hired a barrister who challenged that bail condition, and the court lifted it. And we intend to challenge this bail condition in Graham Linehan's case as well, and it may well be that the court lifts this as well.
But surely, I mean, what's the law on that? Because it should, I mean, presumably bail conditions are relatively discretionary, are they? So you can impose what you like. Because it does seem extraordinary that that in Britain in 2025, part of your bail condition is that you're not allowed to complain.
No, you can't impose any bail conditions you like. They are supposed to be reasonable and proportionate, and we don't think in this case that is a reasonable or proportionate condition, and we will challenge it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're successful.
One of his tweets did say this: if a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he's committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. That's what Linehan said back in April. Now, there are laws against inciting violence. There's at least a claim to be made that's encouraging people to commit an act of violence.
Yeah, there aren't, in any straightforward sense, Stig, laws against inciting violence. One of the puzzling things about the Met's announcement yesterday was that it said he was being looked at for inciting violence. There is no statute on the statute books, no criminal offence which has those words in it. There are laws against stirring up hatred, but there are only laws against stirring up hatred against people on racial, religious, or grounds of sexual orientation. There is no law, at least in England and Wales, that criminalises stirring up hatred against people on the basis of their transgender status. There is in Scotland. That was one of the changes that the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act made to public order legislation, but not in England and Wales. So it really isn't clear what criminal offence Graham is being looked at. Maybe the Met will clarify that today. They said yesterday that he was being looked at Part 3A of the Public Order Act. That was the offence he was suspected of committing. But Part 3A criminalises stirring up religious hatred and hatred against people on grounds of sexual orientation, but makes no mention of transgender status. So they seem a little confused as to exactly what crime they think Graham may have committed.
Is it right to use phrases like totalitarian when it comes to Britain and free speech? J.K. Rowling used that about this. We do hear it being used. Is it too much? Fair? What do you think?
I think it's it's I think probably that's a little bit too strong, at least for the time being, although things do seem to be getting progressively worse. And also it leaves out the comic dimension. I mean, when Graham saw that he was being met by five armed police officers as he came through immigration at Heathrow, he burst out laughing. And there is something comical in the sheer overreach of arresting a middle aged, not particularly in great shape, British comedian with five armed police officers. I prefer to think of it as sort of carry on Kafka rather than straightforward totalitarianism.
Well, what I don't understand, Toby, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, is that if they felt they had to investigate this, why could they not? You can see the tweets; they just exist as a thing, so you can make a decision on that either way. Could you not call someone in for an interview, ask them to attend a police station? If you wanted to go down this route, and we've just heard the reason why that wouldn't be a very good idea, is it possible to go about the actual process better? Why do you need cops at all to arrest someone coming off a plane in that circumstance?
Well, yeah, that's a bit of a head scratcher, and we're thinking quite seriously about suing the police for wrongful arrest and wrongful imprisonment, or helping Graham do that. And the point you've just made will be part of that case. I mean, the reason Graham was returning to the UK is because he has to attend a trial at Westminster Magistrates Court on Thursday. He's been charged with assault. And so it would have been very easy, given that the police know where he's going to be on Thursday and Friday and know why he's in the country. Very easy to arrange an interview, which I'm sure he would have voluntarily attended. It was completely unnecessary to send five armed police officers to clap him in irons and then detain him for 16 hours. I mean, it was just completely over the top.
Because somebody was saying, well, if you get arrested at Heathrow, you're going to have armed officers. There's going to be lots of them there because they exist in Heathrow. I guess the question is, why did they need to get him as soon as he landed into this country?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Stig. And in due course, I hope a question that Graham will be putting to the Metropolitan Police.
Just finally, should we be embarrassed as a country? Because clearly this is happening all the time. If you go online, there's all sorts of stuff said where no one's ever prosecuted. So some police forces, or some aspects of every police force, are not spending their whole time arresting people for social media, because we see social media and what's in it, and nothing's ever done about it. So should we be embarrassed as a country? How bad is this problem? Why does it happen only on some occasions and not on others?
Yeah, well, I think there are probably two aspects as to why this is so troubling. I think it's troubling because no one should have to suffer this kind of humiliation just for three tweets, particularly in Graham's case. I mean, I don't think they came near to being unlawful. But it's also troubling in that there seems to be a bias in which social media posts the police bother to investigate. I mean, people have said far, far worse things, trans rights activists, about J.K. Rowling, and they haven't been investigated. It's not uncommon at protests by trans rights activists for them to wear T-shirts saying "punch a turf" or "the only good turf is a dead turf," and they very rarely get arrested for quote unquote inciting violence. It's both over the top that the police should be wasting their time investigating these kinds of low-level, irritating misdemeanors when there could be proper serious crimes they should be investigating, but also troubling that it's seemingly politically biased. If you say something unfashionable, if you say something that The Guardian is likely to disapprove of, you're much more likely to have your collar felt than if you say something the Daily Telegraph disapproves of.